I know where we're going, it knows where we're going, and we go there together. You don't have to give permission for anything.
Taste, judgment, trust, and agency are the four that you cannot currently automate.
You can actually download your entire LinkedIn network, including all your contacts, emails, everything about them.
We took on 2 developers this week. I just say, onboard these 2 guys.
A very good psychological exercise that I recommend anyone to do. I got the experts here. Let's do a quick introduction. A 1 minute, who are you? Let's start with Dan. I know Dan since 2 years now. It was my favorite talk of 2 years ago, Nomad Fest. Very inspiring. I was scared to lose my job to AI. This year, talked about something similar. But yeah, give us a quick TLDR. Who are you and what have you been doing the last 2 years?
What have I been doing the last 2 years? It's a great question. So I've been trying to make the world a better place, and then I decided nobody's going to pay for that. So I'm now also on the solopreneur journey. I've been vibecoding since before that was a name. I started with ChatGPT 1.0, like the 1st of December 2022. I was already writing code with AI, and that saved me from hiring a developer for my VC-backed startup at the time. Since then, I've just been doing a bunch of random stuff, but now I'm on the same train as we were just discussing earlier. I'm trying to launch a new thing. My first paid thing is called Cloud Captions. It does delightful captions with a click. So you upload a video, select a creator style, like anything super fancy, you know, things behind your head, whatever. That normally takes hours of editing and hundreds of dollars from an editor. You just click a button and get the same result. So that's what I'm working on now, and I'm very excited to be on this journey. Woo!
Awesome. Nice. Thank you. How about you, Seth? I saw you're building something with agents, right?
Yeah, so we it's like agent inception. We've built an agent building agent, and you talk to it and it builds you agents.
Wow.
Ultimately, I think it'll be completely normal in, I don't know, 18 months for everyone to have many agents working for them. And so it's fairly easy to build them yourself, but a lot of people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So we're more for, maybe not you guys who are all like really embracing it, but for other people that would like the benefits of the agents without learning how to build them themselves, we're building that kind of platform.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll go deeper in that the next round. Sure. Chelsea, how about you?
Yay, I assume this has to do just with AI, so I'll skip the rest of it. I took about
No. Go let it all out.
It's okay. I took about a 2-year sabbatical, but moving back to 1997, I started building websites. And this period reminds me a lot of the early 90s, or late 90s, early 2000s, when it was exciting to build on the internet. And there was this feeling of anyone could change the world or build their ideas into life. And I feel like now we can all be builders. And that's super inspiring to me. So I created a company in Lisbon called Collab, which helps people learn how to use Claude Code in Terminal, so how to use it like a developer. And then a more advanced course teaching agentic AI, automations, all sorts of different things. And I have been extremely impressed at what the entrepreneurs in our groups have built. It is absolutely insane. So let's get into it.
Okay, let's get into it. My talk was like the main thought about it was if you can define it, you can build it. And the whole idea was if you can explain with enough detail what you want to create, then your agent can build it. But Chelsea, what do you teach? What do you teach your students as a process of how they can turn their ideas into reality? Is defining enough, or do you think there's more needed to actually
What do you mean by defining?
I said if I go for a walk and I talk for 10 minutes, I transcribe exactly what I want, and then later I put this into Claude or in ChatGPT, ask me some questions, poke some holes in here, and then I have enough of a definition of what I actually want to build to turn that into a PRD, MVP, and then you have actually created your product. Do you think that's enough, or what's the process that you teach to?
I mean, there's all sorts of things, like for beginners, we teach to do exactly what you're saying, which is a long prompt and a lot of context. So meaning websites that you like, colors that you like, a logo that you want to use, maybe competitors' websites and specific features that you like, things like this. But moving into the more advanced elements, I think you really have to break down what AI is built of and what the building blocks are. So we teach things like, what are the tasks the tools and the skills that you can then build into agentic AI. And I believe that this is like a way of thinking in agentic thinking. And without understanding exactly what the tool actually does, I don't think it's very easy to build with it.
Yeah, I agree. I love solving problems that I see on a day-to-day basis, and if I figure out like, oh, this problem I've been solving 3 times now this week, turn it into a skill, turn it into an agent. And is this something that, Seth, is this something that people can do with your platform, creating skills for their problems, or how do you approach this?
Yeah, I think the release of the skills capability from Claude initially, I think it was really made it a lot easier. And I teach a few people as well how to code with AI, and I always just try to keep it really simple and describe it in ways people understand from things that they're already doing in their lives, right? And it usually just comes back to the way that you're working with people already. A lot of the time, the best ways to work with agents is very similar. People think it's really, really complex and everything, but and they also expect AI to just work perfectly from the first result that you get, which isn't the case. And so I talk about how in your business you might hire a new employee and expect them to do the same job as someone that's been doing it for 20 years, and then they don't deliver because you haven't trained them properly, right? You don't just say, right, sack this person. This person's useless. It's on you. You haven't done a good enough job of making sure that they know what they're supposed to be doing. It's just the same with agents, right? You can give them a set of skills in exactly how to use a particular product. You give it the ability to use that product, which is now made quite easy by a lot of these platforms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please explain what a skill is.
So skills really is just a text file that tells the agent a bunch of things that it can do. So let's say you give it a connector so that it can log in and use Canva for you. You might say, right, I want a flyer. I want you to do a flyer for one of our events. Your flyer would be different, and you'd want it made in a different way to another company's flyers, right? So you'll describe, first do this, then do that, and then get the name of the event and put the date below it and all that stuff. And it's really just that. It's the same kind of list of instructions you would either hand to an employee or get other employees to kind of train the person. Yeah.
Just like an employee, the micro elements that you might not think of in between steps, it will get wrong.
Yeah, and that's where, as you said, you've got to retrain it. Just give it more feedback. First result will not be very good. Don't give up. Expect it to not be great, but you can refine those skills as you go. And you can also build a skill for creating skills the way that you want them. So, it gets a bit recursive. But so Claude introduced skills, and they explained how to make your own list of skills. But you can actually ask the agent platforms to build a particular skill for a particular workflow that you want the agent to follow.
Can you give an example of a skill so that people understand what a skill might be?
Well, so the Canva one is an example. You might say...
I have a good example. So I found myself, we have the podcast, and I hate creating thumbnails, thumbnail design, and I was playing around with Nano Banana first. Claude writes my thumbnail prompt. I go to Nano Banana. Never really consistent. And then I found a workflow that Claude writes the thumbnail skill, and then I go to Codex to generate it. Now, actually, step back. How I process my podcast is I export a transcript, and then I created a repurpose skill, meaning it analyzes the transcript and then gives me thumbnail prompts that I can give to Codex. It also gives me 21 clips I can take out of the full podcast, turn it into clips with another agent. It gives me YouTube titles, YouTube descriptions. So all with just /repurpose, which is a skill, and it gives me 20 files, which I then can use to give to other agents, or I act on this myself. So that's my most used skill. I use this every week, and it saves me so much time. It's still not perfect because I have to manually go from Claude to Codex to generate the thumbnails, which is actually automatable too. I just haven't really done it yet. But like, if you can describe it, you can create it and you can build it, and it just helps you save so much time. At least this one for me.
So maybe a good way to describe a skill is a repeatable process.
Exactly. Yes.
this is one of the problems that people have with AI, right? Don't want to get into too much jargon,
Yeah.
but non-deterministic, right? You ask it something and then you ask it the same thing another day, it gives you a completely different output. And skills help make something become more dependable and repeatable and precise.
It's basically like a Google Doc where you say, the skill that we're creating is the repurpose skill. I give you my transcript and I want you to create 21 clips that will have potential to go viral, 3 thumbnails, a YouTube description that's optimized based off keywords, etc., etc. Just like you would do a briefing for a client or whatever else, or an employee.
I have a digital nomad example for this.
Go for it.
So I usually do 3, 4, maybe 5 hours of research when I go on a major trip to see what restaurants are nearby, where I'm staying. Sometimes I like the lower level Michelin star places that aren't expensive. And I also like going to events, but every country and every place has different events platforms. And I like seeing where there's yoga and local things and art and, whatever else is around me. So I developed a website with all this stuff on it, including a schedule for going to a trip to Florence, and it's beautiful. And then I created a replicable skill to be able to just enter in where I'm going and when I'm going, and it searches for all the event platforms that are local, finds all the things, and creates me a schedule, and finds all the local restaurants right around me. So this is kind of cool.
What tool did you use to create this?
This is Claude Code.
Okay.
Claude Code in Terminal.
Nice. We'll go to the next topic, building on a question I got from Alina. How do you know it will make money before you build it? And the question is here, pre-sell versus build and then see. First Seth and then maybe Dan.
I think it's down to preference, isn't it? But I think for me, I think it's always a risk to spend a lot of time building something before that you can sell it. Obviously, that risk is reduced when you're using AI to build something in a week that used to take 9 months, so it's not as big a problem. But flip side of that, it's also easier to use AI to help you market it quickly. So why not do it?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be the odd one out here, and I'm going to tell you that the way I found out to validate this current idea that I'm working on, which is the
Louder.
Can you hear me? I'm usually the loudest guy in the room. Okay. So the way I found out to validate this idea is I didn't come up with the idea and then looked for validation. It came from people telling me, oh, I spend all of this money on doing this. Oh, I spend all of these hours on doing this. Oh, we employ 7 people. We pay them $30 to $40 per video just on captions. I'm like, but CapCut comes with captions. Edits comes with captions. Like, why are you paying anybody to do this? You click a button and get the captions. Oh, but they suck. They don't stop the scroll. They're not things that you're interested in. They're not delightful. They're not different. They don't stand out, right? Aha, so you have to pay a human to make them stand out. Can I copy the human? And so then I spent a day of like token maxing, and I realized I could not fully copy the human, but I could copy 85% of what the human does and then give the human creative control over the remainder. And that would be a thing that people want. And then I worked with the human that does it, who isn't afraid of being automated, who cannot wait to not have to do this, who was texting me last night, is it ready, can I use it now? This is the person who is paid hundreds of dollars to do this by hand, cannot wait to stop doing it by hand, right? So I didn't seek it. I didn't like come up with a thing and then try to validate it. I talked to people, they told me this is a pain, and then I figured out I could solve it. It also solves my own pain, because I wanted these captions on my videos, so it combines. So I went the other way around this time, and as I was talking about this year, if you've seen my talk this year, I'm very bullish on in real life events, people meeting and sharing and communities and what comes out of that. So that's my answer.
Okay, in your talk you also addressed moats, right? Moats in AI building and in a sea of vibe-coded apps. How can you stand out? This is a question for all of you. Let's start with Dan and then we pass on. Wait, so the moat could be the product, the audience, the founder. What are the moats, or what's the moat to stand out?
Okay, so these are different, I put them in different buckets.
Yeah.
So the mode for your app or your business is not what I talked about this year. I talked about the mode for the human, right? Remember the first year I was scaring everybody with your jobs are over. Now every year as time passed, everybody got convinced that was true. And now I'm here to tell you that you should chill. That it's actually not that bad. So always be contrarian, have something interesting to say. So I talked about the human moats. I talked about how taste, judgment, trust, and agency are the four that I've identified, in the sense that you cannot currently automate this. Right? We keep talking about AI employees, and I don't believe a word of it because I wouldn't trust them with anything, right? You can have automations, you can have workflows, you can have all these like processes that run, but you have to be in the loop. You have to be in there and be able to approve or not approve, to guide, to direct, to reroute, because they come up with random stuff, and if you just let them play, it's just garbage, garbage in, garbage in. So taste and judgment, trust, as I said, and agency, right? You want to do stuff. Yes, you can run your agents on a loop. Yes, you can have like the open claw pattern every half an hour. It runs a prompt and blah, blah. It's not the same thing as I've met this person. They have a problem that motivated me to try to fix it. If you just looked online for caption apps, there's like a trillion. You wouldn't find a competitive wedge. Oh, but they already exist. They already make money. Why would I go into that? And then you realize it doesn't solve the problem, but you have to talk to the people. Go next.
All right, I've been volunteered. I think it's difficult to have a moat right now, I'll be honest. If anybody can build software at any time, anywhere in the world, it really comes down to what makes you uniquely human and makes your mind tick differently, and how might you apply that? And then secondly, what is your major area of expertise and passion that you can be obsessive about for a long time? And work with the AI on to bring about a product or an idea that's different enough, that has your own unique flavor. And then on top of that, you actually need an audience. So you need some sort of distribution model, I would say. And, creators are in a really good position for that. I hate to say it, but they're in a really good position for distribution. So if you have a large network or a large email list or domain expertise in a particular area, this is extremely useful at this point.
Yeah, I guess not that much to add, because I think we're all largely in agreement. Yeah, I spoke about the same thing to an extent. We don't try and get rid of the humans' unique insights and taste and judgment and sense checking. That's where 95% of AI projects are completely failing, because they're trying to automate 100% of the things. And so we're all grappling, in this world where AI can do almost everything. What should we focus on? And it is, I think, these things of who understands the problem the best, who understands the audience the best, who can talk to them the best. And yeah, so in our platform, like, we're not trying to build everything. We want the people that have got those understandings and ideas to come and build the best agents that will actually solve problems. Yeah.
No, I would agree with the distribution. I think, like, I'm jealous of creators with a huge audience that can just share what they created and onboard a bunch of users and start getting feedback from day one. While if you don't have that, then the first hurdle is finding a few users to start getting that feedback and then to start listening to your users. But that's a big step to make, and that's sometimes such a challenge that many projects stay at 0 users and you jump to the next thing. So yeah, sometimes envy big creators, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the most powerful thing to have is, the distribution, the audience, as well as the real deep understanding of the problems. Like, just because someone's got millions of followers,
yeah, exactly.
it could
Sometimes
just mean they're good at creating content, or
Yes.
they're very good looking or very entertaining, whatever. It doesn't mean they can fix the problem as well.
Yeah, sometimes you don't need a big audience if you solve a very specific problem. Like Luca, you don't need a huge audience or a lot of subscribers or users to turn this into good revenue for your app either. So it's maybe more important the right audience versus a big audience. Yeah, exactly. Another question was your single best token saving habit. Dan, you're building an IDE. What would you recommend people to save tokens, not waste money on credits or maxing out Claude into prompts?
Okay, great question. So I would start by not focusing on using Claude all the time. I find that it's mostly unnecessary, extremely expensive, very limited, and its level of ability is on par with, say, Codex, GPT 5.5. Hugely bullish on this. They don't pay me. I get no referral bonus. But I'm telling you, I get 7 times the value out of what I pay OpenAI versus what I pay Anthropic. That's 100%. For now, then it will be GLM or Jifu or something. I'll pay the Chinese. I don't know. The point is, don't just Claude Max. Number one. Number two, a lot of these frameworks that we try to use are just burning tokens for no reason. I'm guilty of this myself. I have way too many skills that make Codex think for way too long about things. I should start cutting on that. So maybe keep a check on what skills you're using, how much they're filling the context. There are a bunch of tools out there, and people are making their own to check how much of the context is being filled with all this like MCP stuff. Check on your MCPs. You probably installed too many.
I had that. I had like 90 plus MCPs, and every time I used Claude Chat, I max out in 5 chats. While if I use Claude Code, I can work for hours.
There you go. So your skill, for example, do you always have that on, or do you keep it in a directory? Specifically?
It's in my specific God mode pod folder. Yeah.
Excellent. So if you keep it local to that directory,
Yeah.
it'll only load where in that
Yes.
folder. What else? Use cheap models. They're not that bad, You can use Haiku for like 80% of the tasks that you're going to, like the one-shot things, like the short sentences you throw. You don't need the top model for that. I'm also guilty of that. I keep throwing things at the smartest model, which I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I think this will be fixed over the next few months, 2 or 3 months. We'll get router models, just like you get routers with the normal ChatGPT. When you ask it a question and it decides which model should answer that question based on how much it needs to think for, how long it needs to think for. The same thing, but for coding, I think we're getting.
I think OpenRouter announced this like a week ago.
Yeah, all the above. As soon as you start getting into connecting and doing skills, you'll go too far. Let's just talk about memory and degradation on this note. As you are seeing platforms like Claude saying, right, you're no longer restricted to 200,000 tokens in my memory. Now you can have 1 million. The quality of its output goes down the higher the context window is. Effectively, the more information you're pushing into it, the worse it gets. It just gets confused. So refreshing, compacting your conversations, in addition to all the stuff Dan said, is pretty good stuff. But yeah, just be aware when things degrade and you start seeing all of your tokens disappear, look into these things like the routers and just better management of memory.
To begin with, I use plan mode in Claude, so it's /plan. Oh, plan mode?
Good.
In Claude, it's /plan. It allows you to collaborate with Claude back and forth and choose exactly what you're going to build a makeshift PRD, which helps not burn so many tokens. Another thing that happened actually just last night is I had some audio recordings from some meetings here that I needed to turn into transcripts and summaries. And I was trying to do that locally on my machine, and it just was burning up my memory and going in a recursive circle. So I used Notebook LM, and it took 5 minutes. So again, yes, use all the tools available to you. And oftentimes, there's a better tool or a cheaper model that you can use. For my Hermes agent, I'm using a free model, for example.
You've got your hand up over there. We'll come to you. I just want to say one other thing. Just when you're uploading knowledge bases and instruction documents, try and upload a text file. If you upload a Word doc or a PDF, it's just full of irrelevant information that, again, just eats up your context.
This is related to this point. Could you guys maybe talk about sessions? What's the best way to optimize when you need to create a new one, when not to?
Okay, so
Yes.
I'm just gonna repeat. So question is how to optimize your sessions, because you mentioned repeating and context and knowledge. How would you optimize each session so you don't lose context over different sessions?
Yeah, this is important whether you're coding using agents or just generally using ChatGPT and Claude. I can't remember what the name is. Are they called projects in Claude?
Yeah.
In ChatGPT as well as Claude?
Yes.
Anyway, projects I think is the default name. Don't have endless long conversations that jump around between topics, because that problem that I was talking about earlier of when it's got too much information, it gets confused. It has to forget things. It has to, or it can no longer operate. So if you have 50 different projects about very different things that you do in your business, and you can then have a different conversation within each project about different things related to those projects. I'll just rewind to make that double clear. Let's say you have a project for newsletters, another project for creating social media posts, another one for handling customer support queries. You create a project, you then create instructions and skills files relevant to those projects. And then every time you want to do something along those lines, you start a new conversation within that project. And it really helps the platforms to not get overwhelmed and for you to be able to jump back and forth and come back into a conversation you had like 6 weeks ago and just carry on the conversation.
I want to add to that. So I use something called Obsidian to create a second brain now for many of my projects. So you just download the app, you can easily connect it with Claude Code, and then you talk to it, actually, you just prompt it, and you start to have conversations, and it creates basically a wiki of markdown files that then have a large surface area that the AI can immediately read and understand as a context for whatever it is that you're talking about. As far as how I work with context in the context window, I do something that I learned in one of my courses that's one of the other instructors thinks is a weird thing, but I actually go to the end of the context window. I have it set up so that it goes all the way to the end and it doesn't auto compact. And then I take the last, like, say 3 or 4 screens and I copy paste that to the next. I reopen the project, I clear it, and then I reopen the project and I add the context back. And I think this actually works a lot better than auto compact.
Yeah. We touched on a bunch of different tools, and that's also the next question. Does the tool matter, Claude Code versus Codex versus the rest? But I'll start with sharing my tool stack, because everything you guys have shared is exactly the workflows I used to. I've been Claude maxing for the last 4 or 5 months. Then I started exploring Codex because I found Codex is better in certain things like image generation, but also certain coding tasks. And I've been using Obsidian, I think, since January, February, where I also created Second Brain. I turned all my notes. I had notes in my Apple Notes, I had notes in my Notion, I had notes in my Google Drive, all scattered around. And I used agents to get all of that stuff, put it into file systems and markdown files. Now I have my Obsidian, which has a bunch of, like, it has an inbox, then it has my project folder, then it has like a living context file. So every time I work on a certain project, it automatically updates that index so it knows what's the latest. So that's how I use all the tools linked to my Obsidian, where I can actually see what the agent is doing. So that's what I really love. Obsidian I use it daily, even like Codex a few times a week, Claude still every day. I barely use the Google AI ones, but actually Notebook LM is super powerful as well. If you want to get a lot of context, turn that into something readable. I think you don't want to burn through Claude tokens. You use Notebook LM, and then you have your context summarized. So that's my tool stack. And now recently, actually, I started moving to Cursor because I think that in Cursor you have the option of all the different models. And if you use Cursor in auto mode, it does, and select the model that's best for the task. Now, I'm not sure how well it does this. I'm only like 1 month ago started using Cursor back, since I started using it like 2 years ago or a year ago. So I haven't really fully migrated yet to Cursor, but I think it's powerful to have all models into one place. Seth, what's your workflow in terms of what tools do you use for building your platform, but also for personal use?
For building, I think my stack's slightly different to my teams. I've got proper developers on the team. I'm not a proper developer. But yeah, I default to Claude Code for almost everything.
And is that in the terminal or in the Claude Code desktop app?
In terminal. I was using Windsurf because I would use Codex as an adversarial review agent on the side of my Claude terminals.
Yeah.
But now we've got a very automated process that does really extensive testing and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, so my devs have shown me how to use something called, I think, Armux, and you can ask Claude to set it up. And if you've got all these different conversations around a particular project, it will create a load of kind of windows in terminals, different color coded and stuff. It's just a bit easier to manage. We do use OpenRouter to switch models with one of these router things that works out the complexity of the task and doesn't send everything to Opus. About 6 weeks ago, we went through all of the agents that we have in our platform to determine how complex they were and switched down most of their models. That reduced our token costs immediately by 54%.
And that's the token costs of the cost that a user would spend.
Yeah, and,
right?
and once we have a lot of users, right, that's
exactly.
that's going to be huge savings for us. We absolutely use Obsidian. I've got a suite of about 60 different agents, and they're like, I call them my AI employees. You don't like that name, but they're like, I delegate stuff to them constantly. Erin, was it your name? Told me about a venture capital firm I should go and meet in Silicon Valley, and so I just pick up my phone, go to my fundraising agent, and I say, research this VC and decide whether I should be reaching out and how to reach out and all that kind of stuff. And these agents are a little bit different to what we have in our Squidgy platform. But as an interface, we use this thing called Roam, and it's very similar to Slack or Teams, but AI ready. It's AI centric. So every meeting that we have, there's an AI listening to it and producing meeting notes, and it adds to Obsidian. So we get that long-term memory of everything that happens. It scans all our emails. It scans all of our messages between each other, like in Slack. And so it literally knows everything that's happening in the business. So
Amazing.
we can ask it anything. It has the context, unless we switch it off. And that's fantastic because it's got video recorders like Loom in it. It's got meeting things like Calendly. So it replaces about 10 different tools that we would all alternatively have to be paying for. And it gives us this like virtual office, so I can see all my actual human employees
So
where they are.
You have a front end or a dashboard where you see all the agents working and give.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And, I've got HR agents. We took on 2 developers this week. I just say, onboard these 2 guys. And because it knows all of the conversations we've had and what we've agreed as their contract, it creates their contracts. It gets e-signatures. It creates a Roam account. It puts them in a little office room in Roam and creates an email account and introduces them to the project and all that stuff. And it's just a nice interface. I think one of the great things that you can get from agents is when you push them into the communications platform you're already using with your people in your business, and that kind of replicates how you get things done already, right? I need this thing done. Who's the best person for that task? Delegate to them in your comms platform, and they report back to you in the platform.
We were talking about this at the Japan night, I think, when like why Salesforce is still valuable, because they own Slack, and Slack now has all this access to the employee communications. It's gonna unlock so much extra data, and here's the living example.
And so they have a marketplace, right? So this comes back to the distribution question. You want to get your solution, if you want to make money from your solutions instead of just using them yourselves, you want to get the exposure in these markets. We're building a marketplace, but we're also helping people to push into Microsoft Marketplace and Slack Salesforce marketplaces.
Okay. Chelsea, question for you, because you mentioned...
Wait, what about my stack?
You want to... Yes, please. Go for it. Stack first and then
Okay,
next
I
question.
want to just give a really quick example of how you can use Obsidian, because we've talked a lot about it and it might sound obscure. You can actually download your entire LinkedIn network, including all your contacts, emails, everything about them. It's part of GDPR. You have to download the first file, and then they will ask you within 24 hours to download the second file. But then you can upload that into an Obsidian second brain along with everything about you. And that can be a communication platform for trying to understand different projects, like how to reach out to potential clients, who to reach out to and why. So this is a very applicable thing for anybody to do, actually. As far as my stack. Okay.
Wait, double click there. You can just download your LinkedIn
Yes,
network,
I think that most people
feed
know
it to
that.
AI, and build
Yeah.
it. Whoa, okay.
Do
Learned
it.
something
Everyone
today.
do it.
Nice.
This is a hyper valuable thing. Okay, my stack.
Everyone's signing off LinkedIn.
Yeah, do it. But keep track of your email, because they'll send you an email and they'll say, here's the file, it's not the real file. You'll have to click into that, and then you have to download another file, and then you have 72 hours to download that file. They really don't want you to actually have this data, but just follow your emails and you'll get it. And then feed it all in and ask Claude or whatever tool you're using to parse it. I use Obsidian. I think that's the best, but you can use that within Claude. Okay, my stack. So I'm a Claude Maxi for sure.
What plan are you on?
Max. Yeah.
Max 100, Max 200?
Oh, well, really? We're going there. Yeah, okay. I'm max regular.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's enough for me too.
Okay, good. Yeah. So I think at like an individual level, Claude Max is really great. I've never maxed out of Claude Max. And other tools I use, like I said, Obsidian, I love. There's also OpenBrain. You can get that on GitHub. That's a little bit more agent to agent, but it's another thing to look into. I haven't done it yet, but I'm excited about it. On the design side, I think this is important and it's not often talked about. I use Figma, Make. I also use Claude Design, and I talk between the tools about how to integrate the designs to make sure that it implements properly. And if you ask each tool, how do I tell Claude what these files are and how do I move back and forth, you'll get a really great answer. And you said something earlier about creating a replicable process, like say for reports or something. I really do think you need something like, I don't know, Figma Make or a file that just draws down the absolute specifics in HTML for what you need, even if it's for a PDF. What else do I use? That's good. We'll stop there.
Okay, the next question, because you mentioned plan mode. How much should you plan before you build?
That's for me.
Yes,
That's
and then we go
that's
to
a style question, I think. I like to think of AI as you learn everything and we teach everything in our courses, but then you decide how you use the tools. As I've used Claude more and more, I use plan mode more and more. I also work on dangerously skip permissions with plan mode. So,
Yeah.
so this
Guilty.
means I don't have to click every time. Yes, I want you to do this. Yes, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. Yes, I can just plug along. But if I enter plan mode at the beginning of a chat, I know where we're going. It knows where we're going, and we go there together. So no, it's real.
You're right, yeah.
So so then the dangerously skip permissions becomes a heck of a lot less dangerous, right? I don't recommend using dangerously skip permissions if you're new to AI, but this is like just a way to you tell it what to do and it just does it. You don't have to give permission for anything.
I was laughing because it's a perfect quote to open this episode on YouTube. It's a good one. 10.
Hooray, we got it. So planning. So we all want to remove ourselves from the process, right? This is a universal desire we all share. I don't want to have to do this. I want the thing to be done. I don't want to have to do it. And so you hate being there. You hate being part of being at your laptop and like, yes, do this. Yeah, I don't know what you're doing, but yes, do it. Yes. You shouldn't have to do that. That's really fucking stupid of us to be doing that. No offense to us, but we should find a better way. And so I've been trying to do that, and I've built myself a tool for that. It's called Omni Harness. I was showing it around these days, and it's basically an interface to all of the CLIs, all of the coding agents. I don't actually open Claude. I have my interface to what I want to do, to the planned mode, let's say, and then it manages my coding agents for me. Once the plan is clear and I know what I want to do and I've approved all the things. Now to plan, I found that Claude's plan mode and Codex's plan mode are significantly inferior to this collection of skills called superpowers. How many of you have heard of superpowers? 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 people. So Google it. Superpowers, skills. It's really good. You're doing it right now. Great. I find it really useful. It does burn more tokens. That it does. But then that's your time saved because you're iterating over all the things that could possibly go wrong at the beginning. And it's really helpful in my experience to get a second opinion. I actually have a skill for this I call second opinion, which is every time you're planning, always ask one of these CLIs. In fact, now I say ask 2 of these CLIs, right? So if I'm planning with Codex, I tell it, ask Claude and ask Gemini. Somebody told me earlier that you could just tell one of them that it's the other so that it's more critical. I don't know. I cannot tell you which one of those things will work better, but I can tell you that when I tell Codex to review the plans of Codex, it finds fewer bugs. It finds fewer problems. And when I tell Claude to review the plans of Codex, it finds more things. And are these things real? Hell yeah, they're real. They're real for reals. Oh, you forgot reset password, right? There's no reset password button. And it will flag that up. It will find things that you will find later on.
do you use APIs or do you use subscriptions for all of this?
It's all subscriptions. So the whole point of this manager of agents that I've made is that I can use the subscriptions because it uses the CLIs. So it uses the software running on your computer that they want you to use, because that's why they're paying you to use it, because subscriptions are heavily subsidized. The reason it works and is quote unquote affordable, and if you look at the difference between how much you would pay in API credits and how much you're paying for the subscription for the same amount, it's like 15x or 20x, some crazy thing. Now, of course, the API has the actual margins, which are pretty big, maybe 30%, maybe 40%. But the other one has like negative margins, like they're actually losing money.
Exactly.
Every token you burn, you're burning their dollars, VC dollars. So ride on these VC dollars while they last, because it won't be forever. So use them while you have them. And I'll give you a little, because we're talking a lot about saving tokens and stuff. I found a slightly different way. So instead of saving tokens, I found a way to steal tokens and burn more. And so there
Token
are these,
maxing.
yeah, token maxing, but not just for the sake of it, but actually building stuff.
Next two questions are about where does vibe coding actually break, but also can you trust vibe coded apps with real user data? If I hear the argument from developers has been the app is vibe coded, is it safe, user data? But what I find over the last year, the coding agents have become so good that I almost feel like it's safe to let it do everything and don't really have to think about security anymore. How do you think about this, Seth? About the paradox of safety?
It's really changed in the last few months, I think. Yeah. But a lot of the pushback you would get was from developers that are afraid that AI was going to cost them their jobs, right? And they were looking to find ways to criticize it. And I think everyone's seen, these worst case situations where everyone's data's gone or all of the money from the company is gone because they're leaking their credentials and stuff like that. Yeah, they're almost always fixed by default now because these platforms know it's really, really bad publicity for them if it goes wrong. But it depends, right? Like, how important is the data in your database? Have you got people's financial information? If you've got if it would hurt anyone for their data to be leaked, you have to go through specifically processes of securing that information, right? And double checking that it is safe. Don't just assume that it's been implemented by default.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done this yet, but I have a software as a service platform that I built. And I think asking Claude or whatever it is that you're building with to actually make it more secure and find holes in it and press against that is probably good. But if you have health data of any kind or insurance data or anything that would compromise someone or has a lot of regulation around it, yeah, you better get your software heavily audited.
Yeah, and if you are doing it yourself, you need a second opinion, right? It's at the very least, don't ask Claude to assess its own code. It's like asking a developer to make sure that he hasn't forgotten anything or made a mistake, right? It's got to be an adversarial review from a different model. So switch between models, use an almost equally powerful, if not more powerful model to do the review, keep going through a process until both Claude and the adversary are in agreement, yet this is safe. We can't find a single thing wrong with this. Even then, if it is this kind of very sensitive data, you need to go to the external review, but the cost of that should be reduced by the amount of work you've done yourself with the AI.
There is a set of skills for exactly this purpose. It's called Improve, and it's by this guy who made Shad CN UI. Do you guys know? It's the same guy. So Shad CN Improve, if you Google that. They're really good. I've been using these tokens I found on the street to improve my apps, and it's been going really well, actually. Like, it finds security vulnerabilities, speeds up things, like, really, really good. I was very impressed with the things that I found. So Shad CN Improve, check it out.
Okay. Last quick fire round before we're gonna do some questions. If there's any questions, keep them ready. Alexandra asked, what's the best AI news source? One to follow and one habit how you keep up with everything that's happening. You don't have to go first, Chelsea. We'll start with Seth.
I think for the most amount of people, I think channels like Greg Eisenberg are pretty good. He covers all kinds of ideas of things you can do and products that can help you do it with, and it's very accessible on YouTube and podcasts.
Yes.
I mean, I can open up my podcast and list and read a few off Meanwhile,
There's a bunch of newsletters, if you're into the deep weeds of AI, that will summarize the latest beef on Twitter between Anthropic and OpenAI, or the latest model announcement. So the one I like is called AI News. It's just called AI News, all put together. I don't know where the domain is. 1 second. It's called AI News and it's Substack. So look it up. It's a summary every day, of course, AI built. Get it in your inbox.
Nice.
Lenny's newsletter is really good.
Yes.
And he has some fantastic money-saving offers where if you pay like an annual fee of $200 or something like that.
Yeah,
right,
there's a 200 and a 400 package.
There's a higher end
and
one. Yeah.
there's very good subscriptions. Like if you use 2 of those tools, you earn it back over the year. There's like Cursor,
It saves us
Lovable,
thousands.
others. Like yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And now it's if I upgrade, it covers like registering a business in
Yes,
the US,
indeed.
which we're about to do.
Yep.
And, yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Lenny's newsletter.
Lenny's newsletter.
Lenny's.
Lenny, the guy Leonard.
I think it's called the Lenny's Product Pass.
Yes,
Yeah.
he has a podcast. He's on YouTube. It's a newsletter, obviously, as well.
I don't know. I'm so busy teaching and in the tools that I'm not reading a lot. I think that's maybe an exception rather than the rule. But while I'm building, I talk a lot with my network on LinkedIn about what I'm building and building in public and that kind of thing and get feedback. The thing I'm most interested in reading about and interacting with besides that is AI ethics and where we're going with this. Some of the people I follow are late sharing economy people or people that have been looking at economics for a long time and thinking about where is all this going, including a guy by the name of Douglas Rushkoff. I think he's got some really interesting feedback there.
Okay, I'll share mine. We have a podcast called the God Mode Pod. We had Dan as a guest. We discuss the latest news in AI every week. So that's where I discuss the stuff. I find these things on Twitter mainly. My Twitter feed is pretty well curated now. I just open it and I get the latest hot topics, the latest viral things in China AI, World AI, Claude updates, all of that stuff. So Twitter is my main go-to source, and I have a few podcasts, but they're combination of AI. Lanny's podcast is great for product focus. All In podcast is great more in general. It's not focused on purely AI. It's more like a higher level. But yeah, like the podcast is more. Never mind. Not gonna mention this one. But anyway.
What was it?
Yeah. No, but
Elon Musk? Like, where are we going with this?
and Greg Eisenberg is great as well, actually, for like the latest like agents, especially recently. Like, yeah, I've really been enjoying that. But yeah, I think that's some serious value being shared here. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? We could maybe like do 3 questions. Anyone?
Got a few yawns.
Yawns? Yeah, I was like getting quiet here. There is a question, James.
Yeah, just curious of your thoughts around what's the relative advantage of using something like Lovable or Replit nowadays, because like Claude Code and Codex, as I understand, are much easier to install and use than they were a year ago. So
Lovable gives out a lot of credits, and I think it's they do a lot of programs with women. I think it's easier to use, more graphically beautiful. You can create something right away. But Replit, Bolt, Lovable, all these tools are essentially built on top of Claude Code. So if you really want to use Claude Code, you should be using Claude in Terminal or Claude in a CLI.
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree too. And Claude is also now releasing products that literally do exactly the same as a Lovable. Same for Codex. You can see what it creates straight into the app now. Where the benefit of using Lovable was you give it a prompt and you see what it creates online, right? You're in a browser. Now Codex can do exactly the same. It can show you the browser within Codex. So it was a great tool for people that just get started, because then you don't have to go terminal to a browser to see your files locally. No, now you can actually do all of that stuff in Codex or in Claude Code.
Agreed with everything that was said, and I myself was wondering, why do people still use Lovable? And then I understood that it's a collaboration tool. It's not for one person.
Yeah.
You have a whole team of people editing the exact same page.
Yep.
That's the one differentiator.
does it consume more tokens?
Yeah, well,
It's so
so So keep in mind, so when you're using Claude Code or Codex, even with Claude Code that is insanely expensive, you're still subsidized, right? Those tokens are still less pricey than they would be on the open market, which is what Lovable has to pay for. Right? So they have to pay for expensive tokens for you to do the exact same thing. So it costs them more than it costs you directly if you're using it. I don't think the margins, will work out in that way unless there's like some extra value proposition.
It's like what Lucas said. You pay for convenience and you pay for moving fast, and you don't want to learn a new tool. You're stuck in that tool. And if you don't have to make many changes, Lovable is great. You prompt the landing page, awesome. But if you want to actually build more complex things, or you want to use your files like a local memory system or all your files and prompt it to communicate with that, you cannot do that with Lovable. So it's different use cases as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a trade-off. I've seen a lot of people say, I want to use Lovable because it's so easy to get in, right? It's just a very simple web interface. You don't have to download, go into the scary terminal. But then 4 months later, they haven't built or released anything because they're hitting the limits, really. I think it is quite limited if you want to do anything complex.
It's pretty, but it doesn't work.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I've also heard that Replit, for example, is actually using Sonnet to build things, and then it uses Opus to check on things. Well, you're not using the best models in there. While if you're using the Claude app or you're using Claude Code and Terminal, you can actually use the best models for cheaper price. You pay $20 subscription, and you can do way more than what you do with your Lovable credits with a better model. Exactly.
Yeah.
One of the things that they do bring is you're in a sandbox that has guardrails, so they have the security parameters.
That's true.
That type of thing. So if you're leading a company that has a team and your team wants to be building things, it gives you a walled garden to be able to play in with, and it's relative. If you're a little bit more technical, then you want to use the better models and that type of thing. But if you've got someone that's like, 7 hours of my day is doing my job, and 1 hour of the day is going to be, I need this little thing to connect these two files together or whatever.
But
That's where the value for some of those.
I want to double click on that because I was on an AI retreat 2 weeks ago in Malta, and we had a guy there, and he built with Lovable, but he spent $30 per day on Lovable credits. Yes, I'm like, why are you doing this? And I taught him how to use Codex, and he recreated his whole thing, or like he moved it to GitHub and then linked it to Codex. But then he came into struggles with the walled garden that you say, where he was using Lovable Cloud or some other database solutions. And that wasn't that easy to actually migrate to other tools if you don't know how to actually, like if you're not a dev or you don't know the details. So then you end up being in that walled garden, continuously spending all that money versus having the freedom to actually use the tools that you want to use and not spend $30 a day. So it's a trade-off you make. Yeah.
Completely agree, and I just wanted to add to what you said and what you just said right now, which is, yes, it's a walled garden that stops you from leaving, but also you don't have to set up your own DevOps. It's there. It's already there. You work in a thing that already works and everybody can access from around the world. You don't have to think about authentication and security and storage and...
Yeah, agreed. One more question? Yeah. So we mentioned Second Brain, maybe a bit sharing. Chelsea mentioned Second Brain, and I also set up my Second Brain where I had all my notes scattered around. Notion, Apple Notes, different projects and all of these, even Google Drive. Now I managed to pull all that information via MCPs. So I plug in my Google Drive into Claude Code, I plug in my Notion, I plug in my Apple Notes, and I say, now tag all these files, and it categorizes all the files, and it puts it into a file system or Second Brain system, which you can find on GitHub or other places, where there is multiple file setups, like different files, just like a brain works, so that it's all sorted, and that your agent can then go and search in your brain with all the notes you created over the last 10 years, and you can chat to everything you ever thought about. And for me, I had more than 1,000 Apple Notes. I had more than 1,000 pages in Notion. I didn't even know certain things, but now suddenly, once I did that exercise, I see links in between different topics that I never knew existed. And that was a very big unlock for me. And it's also amazing for the agent to then go and find these links. If I now speak to my agent, I say, hey, I have this idea. Have I ever mentioned this before? It says, yes, here and here and here and here. And that's really a second brain thing. That's like, my brain cannot process this, but thanks to this setup, I can.
I think it has the ability to carry more information than you can even carry about yourself. So, for example, my first use case for the second brain was I've done more than 30 projects over 25 years plus, longer actually. And a lot of different renditions of different things. And then I've got my LinkedIn network, I've got all my notes. I even had Obsidian and the second brain go and look on the Wayback Machine on archive.org for projects I'd previously worked on and archive that within the second brain. So now when I have a question about what I want to do or how I want to phrase something, or even an inquisitive question about myself, it almost knows better than me what the right answer is, especially when it comes to something professional or logical. And it finds patterns. I even asked it, what is something about me that I wouldn't see in myself? Or what is the thorough line between me and my whole career? And it answers so crystal clear and beautifully. It feels like magic. So this second brain thing, I think, is wise to set up for every brand, every project, for yourself. Claude and other tools, Codex, they do have like a short context window, and they also don't necessarily remember things that you tell them. Even if you put them in the right MD files in the right places, they don't always pick all of that up. So I think these systems like Obsidian and OpenBrain create a file system that's just better for the AI. So you can look through it yourself, and it's human readable. It is like a Wikipedia for yourself or for your project. But I think, like a brain, it just allows you to find that exact piece of information that you want for that exact question a lot faster.
And that's also why I did that exercise of like going from all those notes, and then these notes get tagged. So there's a tag, there's a category, and then also a summary of like 1, 2, 3 sentences, a paragraph. So when the agent goes and search for it, it searches the tags. It's not going to search through the whole article. So it knows where to find it or what project we're talking about. And what I also love about what you said is I once did an origin story exercise with myself where I'm just sitting down and I'm talking about my whole history from what I remember as a kid until now and all the struggles I've been through and like things that. And then I gave it to Claude and it went through my brain. And yeah, it found links and reasons why. And it's like a very good psychological exercise that I recommend anyone to do if you're willing to share your data and information with Claude.
I also gave it to my Hermes agent, and I have it sort of ping back and forth with that. And when I talk to Hermes, it actually saves everything that we talk about. So yeah, this gets quite fun, actually.
It's so fun. This was amazing. Thank you very much for the panel, for sharing everything here. Lots of good insights. I think we answered all the questions from the app, and I'll upload this on YouTube as well for anyone who wasn't here or want to listen one more time. Thank you for coming as well. And next week we do a meetup where we share a bit more about what we're creating. So if you're still in Bansko, you're always welcome here. Thank you very much.
Cheers. It's awesome.
Great question.
Come on,
Great.
help me.
Great leadership.
Thank you.